The Galactic Council had exterminated civilizations for less than a scheduling error. So when the word Earth appeared on the central hololith, no one bothered to hide their boredom. The chamber itself was a monument to dominance. Neutron stone pillars rose like fossilized ribs, each etched with the names of species that no longer existed. Atmospheres overlapped in carefully regulated layers: chlorine mist for the Vrail, ionized helium for the Kasari, warm oxygen-rich air for delegates who still required something so primitive as lungs. Gravity fluctuated by platform, adjusted so no one felt disadvantaged. The council called that fairness. The truth was simpler: everyone here had already won their wars. At the center dais, Supreme Speaker HFY of the Threxian hegemony clicked its mandibles in irritation. 6 eyes scanned the chamber while subminds processed 10,000 data streams. Next item, it intoned. Final review of pre-member species designation, Sol System, 3rd planet. Common name, Earth. A ripple of amusement moved through the delegates. Ah yes, purred a Cerati noble, its serpentine body coiled in lazy loops. The loud one. The one with the broadcasts, another added. So much noise. So many arguments. They are still divided into nation-states, said a Kasari archivist, feathers ruffling with disdain. We intercepted a transmission where they argued for hours about the proper temperature of a beverage. Laughter echoed. Even the speaker allowed a faint clicking sound that approximated indulgence. Earth was classified as a Category 3 death world. Dangerous environment, aggressive fauna, unstable climate, but its dominant species had failed to translate that raw brutality into meaningful galactic power. Nuclear weapons, chemical rockets, internal wars that killed millions over lines on maps. Primitive. Predictable. The speaker gestured toward the lone figure standing on the human platform. Human representative, HFY said. You may speak before we proceed with compliance assessment. The man did not bow. That alone caused several delegates to stiffen. He stood straight, hands clasped behind his back, wearing a dark uniform devoid of decorative frills. No ceremonial blades. No submission symbols. Just fabric reinforced at the shoulders, boots scuffed as if he walked where polish didn't survive. His hair was gray at the temples. His face bore the look of someone who had slept poorly for decades and made peace with it. My name is Admiral Elias Crow, the human said. His voice carried without amplification, calm, controlled, and unpleasantly confident. On behalf of the United Nations of Earth, I acknowledge receipt of your invitation. The word invitation landed wrong. HFY eyes narrowed. You are here to be evaluated for provisional integration. Crow nodded once. That's what your message said. Your species will submit to psychological harmonization, military oversight, and resource redistribution. The speaker continued. In return, you will receive protection, limited trade access, and, eventually, representation. Eventually, Crow repeated, tasting the word. Several delegates smirked. Before we proceed, Crow said, there's a small clerical issue I'd like to correct. The speaker's mandibles clicked, annoyed. Be brief. Crow raised a hand. The hololith responded, not with human encryption, but with council standard protocols. That, more than anything, drew attention. Humans were not supposed to be fluent at that level. The image of Earth rotated slowly. You have our planet listed as Earth, Crow said. That's understandable. It's what we call it publicly. A pause. But that isn't its real name. Silence crept into the chamber like a pressure drop. HFY leaned forward. Clarify. Crow's lips curved, not into a smile, but something close enough to be unsettling. You see, he said, humans have a habit of giving things friendly names. It helps morale. Helps children sleep. Helps politicians lie. He tapped the control again. The star map zoomed out. The Sol system appeared, then historical layers began peeling back, older charts, pre-council surveys, data blocks marked redacted and obsolete. Council archivists stiffened as ancient files unlocked themselves. That's impossible, whispered the Kesari. Crow continued anyway. The first interstellar species to find us didn't call our world Earth, he said. They didn't even call it Sol 3. A new designation burned onto the hololith in stark red glyphs. Terra Mortis. Translated beneath it, in Council Standard. Death World. A few delegates laughed nervously. Many worlds are classified as such, HFY said. This is not unique. Crow nodded. True. But the translation is incomplete. He swiped again. The glyphs shifted, older now. Sharper. Written in a language none of the delegates used anymore. The system auto-translated anyway. The world that hunts back. The laughter died. Crow's voice hardened. They came as explorers, he said. Surveyors. Anthropologists. Then traders. They studied us for decades. Wrote papers about our aggression. Our adaptability. Our tribal violence. He looked directly at the speaker. Then they decided we would make excellent labor. A low hum of discomfort spread through the chamber. They had better technology. Starships. Energy weapons. Neuropacifiers. They conquered our orbit in 6 hours. Crow paused. Occupation lasted 12 years. XY Rarkath clicked sharply. This is irrelevant historical mythology. Crow nodded again. That's what the Second Empire said. The hololith changed. Ruins appeared. Colossal structures shattered and drifting through space. Broken ringworld segments. Dead stars with artificial scars burned into their surfaces. Council archives began screaming warnings as cross-references completed. Extinct. 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 One by one. These civilizations, Crow said quietly, are in your records. You just never connected the cause. The Sereti noble recoiled. You expect us to believe? No, Crow interrupted. His voice snapped like a rifle shot. I expect you to remember. He stepped forward, boots clanking softly on the platform. We didn't beat them with superior weapons, he said. We beat them with logistics. With sabotage. With stolen tech we barely understood but learned to use anyway. A flicker of dark humor crossed his face. We learned how long their species could go without sleep. Without food. Without hope. The chamber was silent now. We renamed their capital city, Crow finished, after the last human child they experimented on. The hololith displayed a single word in human script. The council speaker leaned back slowly. You are threatening us, XY said. Crow shook his head. No. He looked around the chamber, at the banners of dead worlds, the trophies of bureaucratic genocide. I'm explaining why your assumptions are dangerous. The speaker's subminds calculated probabilities, threat vectors, escalation trees. Humans are still technologically inferior, it said. Crow smiled this time. Small. Cold. So were we, he replied. The first time. The chamber lights flickered. Council sensors screamed warnings, unauthorized data pings, deep space activations, ancient listening posts waking up after centuries of silence. Crow straightened his uniform. You asked for our compliance review, he said. But you made one mistake. XY Rakatha's voice dropped to a hiss. Which is? You didn't ask why we waited so long to say hello? The alarms began to howl. The council thought it understood humanity. That was the first mistake. They tried diplomacy. Official communiques, formal warnings, compliance demands, everything wrapped in polite, sterile bureaucratic language. Surrender your defenses. Submit your fleets. Allow peaceful integration. Failure to comply will result in minimal corrective measures. Earth responded in exactly 6 minutes. A single word. No. No explanation. No justification. No back-channel negotiations. Just one syllable that shattered centuries of confidence. The council laughed. Then sanctioned. Then tried to blockade. Human trade routes vanished overnight. Entire alien corporations found their supply lines empty, their assets frozen, their employees missing. Freight carriers, mining operations, and luxury transport ships simply never arrived. And when alien media tried to broadcast mockery, their satellites went dark. "Cute," muttered Captain Rios, human, third in command aboard the UNS Resolute. He was chewing on a nicotine strip like it owed him money. "They're telling us to behave like pets, then taking our favorite chew toys." Admiral Elias Crow didn't smile. He never smiled. "They're doing exactly what we want." "What's that?" Rios asked. Crow's gaze never left the viewport. Out there, stars glittered like distant eyes, but humans weren't looking for light. They were looking for vulnerabilities. "They're underestimating us," he said. "Exactly as predicted." The first Council patrol disappeared 2 days later. Entirely. No debris. No distress signals. No warning. Only a blinking red pulse where the fleet should have reported in. Council intelligence scrambled. Nothing explained it. Nothing fit their models. Nothing prepared them. A week later, a second fleet vanished. Then a third, from a completely different sector. The Council began to panic behind closed doors. Publicly, they doubled down on arrogance. "Pirates. Rogue factions," they said. "Humanity is chaotic, not coordinated." Privately, fleets shifted nervously. Patrols that were once confident now hovered in defensive formations, weapons systems humming anxiously. Even the Kasari, who had boiled entire species alive for entertainment, were quietly reading old reports of human adaptability and resilience. Meanwhile, humans were working in ways the Council could never have imagined. Ships the Council assumed were destroyed were actually being reclaimed, refitted, and remanned. Battlecruisers, once pristine with alien insignias, now bore human markings, scars of fire and steel, welded armor, improvised weaponry. Board crews laughed as they learned alien control systems with shocking speed. They moved like predators, treating Council technology as furniture to be rearranged. The retaliation began at the border world of Kelt. No warning. No declaration of war. No radio chatter. Only a silence that spoke louder than any threat. Then the first strike. Massive kinetic rods, fired from orbit, not bombs, not lasers, just iron and steel moving faster than the eye could follow, obliterated the planet's primary military installations in seconds. Cities crumbled. Military bunkers vanished. Communications lines were severed before they could register a signal. Human ships arrived moments later. No transmissions. No intimidation. Just music. Slow, haunting war songs from Earth's past. Songs about battle, about endurance, about people who had fought when every tool in the galaxy told them they would fail. Council forces scrambled. Superior numbers. Superior tech. Superior arrogance. It didn't matter. Humans fought differently. Ambushes in space, boarding actions where Marines moved through corridors like shadows, laughing through bloody teeth. Human Marines painted kill counts on bulkheads in their own blood, a message written in defiance, not threat. One captured Kelt general, trembling and dripping, asked why humans escalated so brutally. Crow's answer was simple. "You sanctioned our civilians," he said. "That made it personal." The Council couldn't parse it. Their fleets were trained to defeat ships, not a species that calculated revenge like a surgical strike. They were arrogant. They were bureaucrats. They were wrong. And humanity had learned patience. A second, more subtle assault followed. Supply routes, hidden communications arrays, secondary fleets, all systematically disrupted. Humans didn't just destroy, they reshaped the battlefield. Every Council victory turned into another human advantage. They weren't fighting for glory, they were rewriting history in real time. Then came the real shock. Crow tapped the hololith. The screen shimmered and shifted. The name appeared again. Terra Mortis. Not Earth. Not Sol 3. The translation hit every delegate like a physical blow. The world that hunts back. Silence. Not polite, uncomfortable silence. Cold, calculated, terrified silence. It was more than an aim. It was a warning. Humans weren't responding to a blockade. They weren't reacting to threats. They were hunting. And this wasn't new, they had been preparing for this moment for decades. Centuries, even. The Council realized, too late, that humans had survived something worse than any of their bureaucratic wars. Something that had nearly destroyed them. And yet here they were. Stronger, smarter, unrelenting. Admiral Crow turned to Rios. "The first lesson is over," he said. "They assumed they could intimidate us. They assumed patience and protocol would save them. Now they'll learn what happens when you misjudge patience for weakness." And somewhere deep in the void, fleets disappeared. Not because humans destroyed them immediately, but because humans were clever, and Council strategy was naive. The galaxy was waking up. And humanity was ready. The galaxy had assumed humanity was small, primitive, harmless. A minor curiosity best catalogued and ignored. That assumption died quietly, then violently. Humanity had waited. Patient. Silent. Invisible. And now it moved. Sleeper fleets, ancient ships hidden in unregistered systems, orbiting dead suns, cloaked in asteroid fields, activated simultaneously. They were ugly vessels, scarred from decades of neglect, but heavily armed and crewed by humans who treated each starship like an extension of their own body. No banners. No fanfare. No warnings. Just cold, precise movement. The Council noticed too late. Sensors picked up unauthorized activity. Ships jumped across hyperlanes no one had monitored. Entire sectors blinked out of communication. Supply routes were disrupted. Colonies that had once relied on Council protection found themselves under silent surveillance by human ships the size of small moons. The first act of terror was surgical. A fleet of 10,000 Council warships attempted a decisive strike on Earth. They came with everything: energy cannons, plasma volleys, boarding drones, fleets of unmanned fighters designed for absolute destruction. They never reached orbit. From the moon, mass drivers, buried under Regulus centuries before the Council existed, fired silently. Every projectile a relic, dense and massive, traveling with brutal efficiency. Entire battle lines shattered in seconds. Ships that had once been symbols of invincibility were reduced to drifting wrecks. Survivors surrendered immediately. The Council was unprepared for this kind of war. They had fought wars of calculation, logistics, and bureaucracy. Humanity fought with instinct, improvisation, and a terrifying understanding of patience. Then came the psychological strikes. Messages. Broadcasts. Across every intercepted channel. Old war songs from Earth. Heavy. Slow. Unnerving. Songs about resilience, vengeance, and survival against impossible odds. Each note carried a warning: this species was not civilized. This species had scars older than most of the Council's empires. And they remembered. Delegates panicked. "Contain it!" barked XY Rarkath. "The humans cannot." A pause. The lights flickered. The hololith pulsed red. Another fleet disappeared. Not destroyed, taken. Disassembled. Reassembled. Patched with human ingenuity and deployed in the opposite direction. "Impossible!" hissed the Cerati noble. "Our forces are superior!" "They're faster," Crows said quietly. "Faster, smarter, and patient. You mistake silence for submission. That was your first mistake. This is your second." Council fleets no longer attempted open confrontation. They were prey now, even as they still held weapons that could destroy planets. Every planet in the border sectors experienced the same pattern: supply disruptions, small attacks, human marines materializing from hyperspace on orbital stations, exacting revenge for old injustices. Entire sectors were paralyzed. Colonies began quietly defecting to human control, whispering legends of the world that hunts back. And then, the final humiliation: an admiral attempted a direct assault on Earth itself. 1 million Council personnel jumped to light speed. Energy shields flared. Weapons charged. Humanity watched. Nothing happened for 6 hours. Then the moon fired. No lasers. No plasma. Just mass, perfectly calculated, ancient and unstoppable. Ships shattered before firing a single shot. The Admiral's flagship broke apart, and the surviving command staff surrendered immediately, broadcast live to the galaxy. Crow addressed the galaxy afterward. Calm. Collected. Terrifying. "We don't enjoy this," he said, standing in front of a tattered human flag streaked with smoke and ash from past wars. "But we are very good at it." The Council scrambled to understand the truth. It wasn't just military power. Humans had survived a war far worse than anything the Council had known. Something that had nearly eradicated them centuries ago. And they had won. The galaxy was littered with the ruins of their aggressors. Fleets, planets, and colonies, all scarred or destroyed, left as lessons to anyone foolish enough to underestimate humanity. "Terra Mortis isn't just a planet," Crow continued. "It's a warning. We survived the impossible, and we remember." The Council had catalogued extinction events before. They thought they understood war. But the humans' patience, cunning, and willingness to make war personal had rewritten the rules. Every tactical advantage they once held was now useless. Every threat they had ever delivered could be turned against them. The galaxy realized something fundamental. Humanity didn't just fight back. Humanity remembered. Humanity hunted. Humanity calculated revenge over decades, sometimes centuries, and when they struck, it was absolute. And for the first time, the Council understood the depth of its mistake. The Galactic Council fell not with a bang, nor with the subtle bureaucracy it prized, but with a vote, one last, desperate gesture of feigned control. Species withdrew fleets. Trade routes realigned under human supervision. Communications that had once broadcast hubris now trembled with quiet respect. Even the Speaker, Supreme XY Rarkath, resigned. Its final words were transmitted across every corner of known space. "We mistook restraint for weakness," it admitted. Earth never joined the Council. Humans had no interest in their pomp, their politics, or their endless committees. They formed something else entirely, a deterrence pact, a warning to anyone who thought patience meant submission. Crow retired quietly. His boots were old, his body scarred, his mind still haunted by the ghosts of centuries of survival. He passed command to younger officers who had grown up on stories of lost empires and scorched fleets. Captain Rios opened a bar aboard a reclaimed alien station, once a Council command hub. Veterans gathered there nightly. They drank in silence at first, counting scars like medals, remembering faces lost and victories hard won. Then they laughed. Dark, dry laughter that reminded anyone listening, humanity had survived the impossible, and survived it with a grin. But even in victory, there were lessons learned. Humanity did not celebrate with fireworks or empty ceremonies. They marked the galaxy with reminders. Every fleet patrol, every colony, every remnant of Council space knew that humanity watched. And they remembered. A mother on a distant planet told her child as she tucked them in. "Behave," she whispered, "or the world that hunts back will notice." The galaxy learned the name. Not Earth. Not Sol 3. Terra Mortis. A warning, a legend, and a promise. The humans never changed the name. They didn't need to. The Council never forgot it. The galaxy never would. And somewhere, in the quiet of the void, the surviving fleets of the old empires wondered aloud who, or what, would come next. Because the humans didn't just defend themselves. They rewrote the rules. They didn't just fight wars. They hunted history itself. And Terra Mortis, the world that hunts back, had only just begun.